Hi quilty friends, and welcome to my little spot in podunk. My name is Leanne, and today we're going to be making this cute little block back here, the kitten mittens. And before we get started, I want to give you the cutting chart so you can cut your pieces and you can screenshot that, or you can print out the PDF. Now, there's 2 pages to the PDF, but you don't have to print out both of them. This is the only one that you really need. Okay, this block finishes 12 by 12. And before we get started, there's a few things that I wanted to go over, things you might need. We're going to have to mark some pieces, so you'll need some type of ruler. Today I'm going to use this little bitty thing because of that glare that you can see flickering. You'll need some type of marking pen. I like to use a water-soluble marking pen, but you could by all means use a Frixion or just a plain old pencil. I'm going to be using a open toe foot, but you don't have to have an open toe foot. It's just very helpful to have it. I'm also going to be using a 1/4 inch foot, but there again, you don't have to have a 1/4 inch foot. If you don't have it, you set your machine up to where you have a 1/4 inch. And you're going to need some type of cutting utensil. I'm going to be using scissors, or you could use a rotary cutter and a ruler. We're also going to be doing what's called flippy corners, and with the flippy corners, we're going to need some type of way to sew a diagonal seam. So I use diagonal seam tape by Collect Sew, and it's on the bed of my sewing machine, as you can see right here. But you do not have to have diagonal seam tape in order to do this video. You can use just plain old tape. Now this is from another video that I did, and it's just painter's tape, and as you can see, one of these has lines drawn on it. I used my quilting ruler to draw 2 lines on it, and you can just take that and line it up with the needle on your sewing machine, either one of those lines. You don't even have to have 2 lines. 1 line will be just fine. Line it up with the needle on the bed of your sewing machine, and you have diagonal seam tape. Or you don't even have to do that. You can line up the tape, the edge of the tape, with the needle on your sewing machine, and it will work just as well. All right, now let's hope you don't need this. It's a seam ripper, but you better have one handy just in case, because I find that when I don't have it handy is when I need it the most. All right, and then of course we're going to need fabric. I always like to show my fabrics just to let you know what I'm using. Now this is a motif fabric. I remember getting it, but I do not remember what line it's from, and it is gray, and it's got little cross hatching on it. I don't know if you can see that, but it is a very light gray. Okay, this is my background fabric, and this is all of the salvage that's left, and it's from In the Beginning Fabrics, and there's when it was made in 2015. And my next fabric is a Holly Holderman fabric. Now that's Lake House Dry Goods, and I've had it for a while. This company is out of business, but you might be able to find it if you do a Google search. You never know what you can find when you're searching. And then my last fabric is First Romance by Kristen. I don't know how to say that last name, but it's a motif fabric. She's a fairly new designer. She hasn't done anything in a couple of years that I know of, but you can find her on Instagram at Pretty by Hand. She has really cute projects. All right, so let's get started. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is to mark some diagonal seams. So that's what we're going to do right here. And we've got fabrics A, J, and B. And we're going to need to mark these because it's a little bit different of a flippy corner. So I'm going to bring these down here and just set these off like this. I'm going to set those off. Now we're going to look at our pattern, and we can see that on our mittens, we've got those diagonal seams, and the J fabric is the thumb that's coming out, all right? So we know that this one needs to go like this, okay? Whoops, let me see that folded up. We're gonna, like this. Now you can fold this up. Okay, you would sew on that creased line right there, but I can't see that creased line. So I have to draw a line. And in order to do that, pull this down a little bit to where we can see that background fabric. And we are going to draw a line from here to here. And I'm going to do that with this. Right where those two fabrics make that little V, and then to the tip over here on the corner, and then just draw a line. And that's how that one needs to be done. I'm going to stick a pin in it and stick it right back up on my board right here. Okay, and on the next one, let's pull this over here. It's the same thing, and we know that this one is going to need to go the opposite direction, so it would be folded back like this. So what we need to do is just lay it down like that, and our diagonal line goes just the opposite. It's going to go from this corner to that corner. So we'll line up this fabric with the edge over here. Just bring it down a little bit so you can see the fabric up here, and then we're going to draw a diagonal line from here to here. From that very tip corner to where those two fabrics meet, and make an L or a V, however you see it. So we've got our diagonal line, and I'm going to leave it just like that and put a pin in it and stick it up on my board. That way I don't get confused about which way things are supposed to go. I have done that before. If you guys have watched any of my videos, you know that sometimes I do get confused, and it's easy to do. I don't care how seasoned of a quilter you are. It's easy to sew with the wrong direction sometimes. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start out with the A and the F fabrics. I'm just going to bring them down here. Pick up both of them. I've got both of them down here. And we're going to need our open toe foot, so I'm doing that. And making sure that my needle is in the center of my open toe foot. Okay, as we go along, because it's a little bit time consuming for me to take these stickers off, I am going to just cut that part out so you don't have to watch me pull the stickers off. All right, we have our A and our F fabrics, and we're just going to turn those little A fabrics upside down and start sewing our diagonal seams. And we can use our pattern for that to see which way our diagonal seams go, or we can look up at our block back here to see which way they go. Whichever way makes more sense to you. That's why I like to give different, visuals. And we are going to start right here, and we're going to do two at a time, both of them, one right after the other. And what I'm going to do is line up the tip of that square with the needle, and I'm going to take one or two stitches. Before I forget, lower your stitch length, because these are small pieces and you want to, a few more stitches in there just so it doesn't come unraveled. So I'm going to take one or two stitches, and then I'm going to look down here at the corner to make sure that my fabrics are lined up correctly and that the tip of those fabrics are lined up with this red line in the middle. And we're just going to stitch. And watching right here, don't pay any attention to what's going on up there right now. You need to watch to make sure that that tip stays on that red line, and you can sew as fast or as slow as you like. And you're just going to sew right off the tip. Then we'll bring over the next one and do the same. Now after these pieces of sewing diagonal seams, I'm going to speed it up, but this is for the new quilter, or the new to my channel quilter, just so they can see how this is done. I know some of you are returning viewers and you're like, oh my gosh, here she goes again. But you know, not everybody knows how to do this. So that's what we're doing, showing them how to do flippy corners. Okay, now we're going to cut that and turn it around and do the other side. We're going to do the exact same thing. Make sure that we're sewing at the right angle. Whoops. Lining up the very tip of the square with the needle, taking 1 or 2 stitches, and then making sure we're lined up with that red line. Line up the tip, take 1 or 2 stitches, and I am not lined up, so I'm going to scoot that over a bit, and away we go. And now that we've got those sewn, we're going to cut a 1/4 inch away, or just about a 1/4 inch away from that line that we just sewn, outside the line on the right hand side. Now you could use a rotary cutter and ruler and put your 1/4 inch mark on there and cut a 1/4 inch away from it. I just think that that's a little bit overkill. I don't have to have a perfect seam. Nobody's going to know if it's perfect or not. It's going to be inside the quilt. Ain't nobody going to be getting in there, I guarantee it, and checking to see if you've got a perfect 1/4 inch seam. So, and I'm just going, these are scraps now. I can throw these away. I'm actually making a dog bed. I've mentioned that in previous videos. I'm making a dog bed. I've got enough probably now. So I'm going to press to the dark, and as you all know, I press to the dark most of the time. We're going to have to, I think we're going to have to do some open seams on this one. I don't think, I know I'm going to do some open seams on this one. But if you want to press these open, by all means, go right ahead. That's your thing, you do it. I just prefer not to. I long arm quilt my own quilts. Well, actually I have a mid-arm. I mid-arm quilt my quilts, and if I decide to stitch in a ditch, it's kind of dangerous to stitch in the ditch when you've done open seams. So that's why I don't do it. Okay, and we put our little top of our stocking up there, or our mitten. Now we're going to go over here and we're going to grab L and G and bring those down. Okay, I've got both of them down here, and I've put the gray part, the gray cat ears, right sides together, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to sew from corner to corner the little ears on both of them, doing it the same way. Now that we've got those sewn, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to come in here and cut a 1/4 inch away from that line. Now, I mention this in every video, and I don't like to use an iron when I'm piecing my quilt blocks, but if you can use an iron and maintain good seams, then you go right ahead. I tend to just stay away from it because I cannot maintain a good seam. My fabrics get all skewed, but I do starch the dickens out of my fabrics. That way I can finger press, and they're not going to lay completely flat, but I get a pretty good crease on those even though I'm not using an iron. But you know, you've got to do what works best for you, and you could use something like this. I have this tool, and you can just go like this, but I find that it's just one more tool, one more thing I gotta have in my hand, and it works, but I have more accuracy with my fingers. I can feel it, and see right there, I know I need to come in there and pull that out just a little bit more. And there's also a seam roller. I have one of those. Here's a seam roller, and I'll show you how that works here in just a little bit. I'm not a big fan of it either, but I bought it, and some of you may absolutely love it. I just don't. Okay. Okay, so let's get our little cat ears up there, and move on to the next piece. So next, we're going to get the little cat face, and we've got fabrics H and M. Okay, we've got the M and the H pieces down here, and we're going to sew diagonal lines from corner to corner. Make sure that you have your fabric the right direction. It's 4 inches this way and 3.5 inches this way. That way it matches up. Okay, did you guys see that? I almost sewed it on the wrong edge. Make sure I've got it right. I do. Okay, and again, we're going to cut a 1/4 inch away from that seam. We'll try using that steamroller. We're going to steamroll these guys. Oh, that'll get those seams flat. We're going to use the seam roller. Okay, I'm going to do this one with my fingers, pressing with my fingers. I have really hard fingernails, you guys, so it doesn't, sometimes I'll get a dip in my fingernails, but it doesn't really bother them. So this time we're going to use the roller. Let's see how that works. Now I'm rolling that pretty hard. And I have my fabric starched really, you know, I'm using Stay Flow Concentrate, like a 50-50 mixture. So which one does a better job? Can you tell a difference? Nope, not really, not really. It's about the same. So, but you know, if you don't have, you know, really stiff fingernails like I do, it may be an option for you. So let's just go ahead and put our little cat faces up there and move on to the next flippy corners. And we have N and H. Okay, and cutting a 1/4 inch away. And this time we're going to press to the background fabric, or the little cat neck, the white. So those will nest up with the seams above on the cat face. And you know, just because I use Stay Flow starch doesn't mean that it's the perfect Stay Flow or the perfect starch. It's the perfect starch for me. If you use something else and absolutely love it, leave a comment down below so other people can see that, and maybe you'll inspire somebody to do something a little bit differently and it work out great for them. It just doesn't. I'm kind of cheap, so I use Stay Flow and it works. Now we're going to do our last seam, which are the ones that we marked earlier. So we're just going to bring both of those down here and stitch on that line. Okay, this one's just a little bit different because you're stitching out into no man's land. So we're going to put the top of that fabric right there at the point of the rectangle. We're going to make sure that our fabrics are lined up on this edge and that edge. We're going to take 1 or 2 stitches, and then we're going to line that line up with the middle line on the bed of the sewing machine and just stitch on that line. Now before we go cutting anything, let's flip them back and make sure, and I didn't take my sticker off, look there, I'm so glad I didn't. I didn't run over that. We're going to flip it back and make sure that we've got it going the right direction, and we do. You can look back there and see that it's going the right way. And we'll flip back the other one. And, oh, I left that one on there and it got 8. Oh, I ripped one of my new stickers. Oh well, life goes on. Things happen. So I'm going to press it back and it's going the right direction, because we can look back here on our mitten and see that it's going right. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut a 1/4 inch away from that seam on the right hand side or the left hand side, depending on if you're right or left-handed. If you're left-handed, it would be over here and you'd be cutting, but that's totally uncomfortable for me. And you could also sew another seam here, a 1/2 inch away from the first one, and save this and make a 1/2 square triangle out of it, which if I weren't doing a video, I would do. But for time's sake, we're not going to do that. So we just press that back, and we'll do the same thing with this one. 1/4 inch away. Press it back. Now we need to make our thumb. Okay, so we're going to put this little square up here and this one over here, and we will sew diagonal seam here to here and here to here to make our little thumb. And cut those off. The hard part's over, you guys, all those diagonal seams. We're going to press to that pink fabric or the thumb, whatever color you choose. And back up on the board they go. Make sure they're on the right one. You want your thumbs sticking out like that. If you have to stick your thumbs up there, do that. Okay, we got it. Now we're going to change out our open toe foot to a 1/4 inch foot, and if we need to move our needle, do that, because from here on out it's just 1/4 inch seams all the way. All right, first thing we're going to do is sew our little cat face together. And I'm nesting up these seams so they'll be smushing them together, that way they match up and we get a nice little nested pointed seams. I'm using really fine pins, these little white head pins that I have. They're super fines, and most of the time I can just run right over those, but I am not telling you to run over them. I'm just telling you what I do. If you run over them and it messes up your machine, I didn't tell you. Okay, let's press those down towards the face. That's the little cat ears. See the little cat ears? Pressing it down towards the face. And then this one, I'm going to press open, just to reduce some of that bulk. And hit it with my fingernail. Let's see how that roller will work here. Okay, down towards the face. And this one I'm going to do my fingers. No steamroller. Okay, let's see which one looks better. All right, the steamroller works good on that. It works better. All right, I may start doing that when I've got really heavy seams like that to press open. Put our little face back up there. And this is what happens when you're looking at your original draft instead of your edited PDF with the correct measurements on it. You have to do some unstitching and some trimming. The good thing is I didn't have to cut any more fabric. I just needed to do some trimming. And that's why the numbers before were wrong. And I had to put up a little balloon saying they were wrong. It should be 3.5 by 3. Now we can put both of them back up on the board and everything is, what do they say, hunky-dory? Hunky-dory. Oh, and did I press that? Yeah, that's pressed out right. All right, now we can add the eye pieces to each side of the cat. Okay, now we're just going to add those side pieces onto the edge. And while I'm doing that, I want to ask you guys to just scroll down underneath this video and hit that little thumbs up button. Give it a little like because that helps me out a lot. And as you can see, I go through a lot to make these videos and make the patterns. Sometimes things go really wrong, you know, in writing. Like I wrote the PDF and checked all my math, and I found some bad math and fixed the PDF. And then I used that same PDF to make the quilt block. That way I'm sure that it's correct, because I had one early on that was not, so I changed the way that I do things. That way I don't have to redo videos and things like that. So if you could just scroll down, give it, hit that little thumbs up button that likes it, and it tells YouTube that you like my videos and you want to see more of them. And I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, let's cut those apart and just press those out. Our little kitty cat is finally taking shape and looking oh so cute. Oh my goodness. And I'm going to take a pin and poke her up there because I know she's not going to want to stay. So let's go ahead and sew this together, the E fabric to the thumb. All right, we're just going to press those up towards that solid fabric away from the thumb, like so. And put it right there. Whoops, wrong side. right there beside the mitten. Okay, and we're going to sew all of this together, and then we'll sew it to the thumb. So we're going to need fabrics F and K. I've sewn both of those F and K's together, and it doesn't matter which way you press them, but I'm going to press them up toward that green. And we'll put this one back over here. And then this one, we're going to keep it down here and work on it. So that's the bottom of the mitten, the kitten mitten. I'm just going to flip that kitten down over on top of it and sew it there. Okay, I'm just going to push those down towards the bottom of the mitten, that solid fabric. And then we're going to grab the top of the mittens and sew those on. And they're both identical, so it doesn't matter. All right, cut them apart. Let's get them pressed. I am going to press these open just to reduce some of that bulk. We'll use that handy dandy little ruler. Get in there on that heavy seam. Push it open. I don't like that down there. That kind of went cattywampus down there on the corner. All right. One kitty cat done. Let's get this one. Now you want to make sure when we get to this next step that you're paying attention, and I'm not going to tell you that I had some issues, but I might have had some issues with the previous block and got things a little backwards. So pay very close attention to what you're doing. And what I'm going to do, just so I don't mess things up again, is make sure that I'm sewing that C fabric on top of one of the mittens and sewing it on the bottom of this mitten. So we're going to press that thumb out. I'm going to press it towards the thumb and make sure that I get this one on the left side up by the C fabric. So I put that C fabric right where it needs to go. Press this one out towards the thumb. And it goes to the bottom. The mittens, yes, that's right. The mitten would be up here like this. And this would be right here like this. I'm telling you guys, it's real easy to get things confused. So it goes like that. That is correct. We got the C fabric on the bottom, and we're going to flip it up there and sew it on. Whoo, we did it. Well, we ain't there yet. Don't get all excited till the block's actually done. Okie dokie, let's cut them apart. Press towards that C fabric. Yay! Make sure that we have them right. The thumbs are together, you see that? I'm going to put it up here so you can see it better. Okay, so I've got them in the right position. We've got this side's up a little bit lower, this side's a little bit higher with seed fabric on the bottom, so we're just going to fold those together. There's no seams to line up. We're just going to sew them together. And I can't tell you how excited I am that this quilt block is almost done, because oh my goodness, it is so much fun, but I've had some issues, as you guys saw. Seam ripper required. Now, it doesn't matter which way you press it, either way will work, so I'm just going to press it this direction. It's just, you can press it open if you want. Totally up to you. Okay, now all we need to do is grab that top fabrics, D, the top and bottom, and sew those to the top and bottom, and our cute little block will be done. Yay! Okay, our quilt block is done, and I want to thank you guys for sticking around and hanging out to the very end. Not everyone does that. YouTube lets me know. And just for hanging out, sticking around, and helping me with my YouTube channel, which means you stuck it out for the entire video. I'm going to give you something a little bit extra, and that means I want to give you the information on how to make this placemat back here. Now, any of the quilt blocks that are in this series that are 12 inches, or any 12-inch block for that matter, will work in this placemat. There's my little block, all done, and needing a good press, but I won't press until it goes into the quilt. Okay, what we're going to need is 2 pieces of fabric that go on each side of the block. They're 1.5 by 12.5, and then you're going to need 1 piece on the side. That's 4.5 by 12.5. You're also going to need some binding. I cut mine at 2 1/4, so you need 2 pieces, 2 1/4 by width of fabric, and then you're going to need some background or some backing fabric, and I just used the same fabric on the back that I used on the front for my background, and I did a simple crosshatch quilting. Used a walking foot and quilted it on my Demex machine. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much. Until next time, I hope you find time to stitch up something sweet, maybe one of my quilt blocks. I love you. Bye-bye.